Right now, I mean, if you look in offices around the world, the people being promoted the fastest are, well, they're often the ones producing the least actual value.
Yeah, it's a completely universal phenomenon at this point.
Right. I mean, they look
Yeah.
incredibly busy. They speak with this absolute authority in meetings. But beneath the surface, they aren't actually building anything. They're just expertly harvesting the work of the people around them.
Exactly. They're just collecting the rewards.
Yeah. So welcome to today's deep dive. It is April 5, 2026. And our mission today is to, cut through the noise of modern success metrics.
Which is so desperately needed right now.
It really is. We are looking at this brilliant excerpt from Chapter 1 of a book called Beyond Exams by N.D. Lama. Specifically, we're diving into a section titled Builders versus Extractors.
And it's such a profound framing.
Yeah, we're setting out to answer a question that really defines how you, and I mean you, the listener, how you operate in your career, your relationships, and just society at large. Are you creating the future, or are you just depleting it?
Framing it as a choice between creation and depletion, I mean, it fundamentally changes how we evaluate success. Andy Lama anchors this entire concept, not with some dense theoretical framework, but with a highly specific visual illustration.
Oh, I loved the visual.
Right. It just bypasses our usual cognitive biases and forces us to look at the actual mechanics of our actions.
Yeah, so the image Lama provides in the text, it's split straight down the middle. On the left side, representing the builder, you see someone kneeling in the dirt, carefully planting seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Above them is this massive, flourishing tree. But the artist really emphasizes the root system, like these deep, sprawling, complex networks anchoring the tree into the earth. And below that, there are two people working cooperatively, passing bricks to lay the foundation for a solid wall.
And that emphasis on the unseen root system is critical. I mean, it visually argues that true building happens beneath the surface.
Yeah.
You're establishing a foundation long before any visible reward appears.
Right, exactly. But then you look at the right side of the image, the extractor. Instead of planting, you see someone standing on top of a chopped-down tree stump.
Just a completely dead stump.
Yeah, and reaching up to pick the last remaining apples from the branches of a neighboring tree. Below that, there's a figure taking this deeply smug bow to a round of applause from an audience.
Oh, that guy. We all know that guy.
We really do. And right next to him is an axe resting on a pile of freshly chopped wood. I mean, he didn't grow the wood, he just chopped it down, and now he is absorbing all the credit.
The visual establishes this ruthless dichotomy. One path leaves behind a thriving, resilient ecosystem. And the other path, well, it leaves behind a stump. It basically forces us to ask, what does our environment look like after we leave the room?
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to introduce some pushback here based on Lama's own description.
Sure, let's hear it.
My immediate reaction to that image is that it feels, I don't know, a bit too clean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in reality, if you walk into a corporate office or a political arena, both of these types of people look completely identical.
That's a very fair point.
Right. The guy chopping the wood is sweating just as much as the guy planting the seed. They both put in 40, maybe 60 hours a week. They both use the exact same corporate jargon. How do we actually tell them apart if the actions themselves look identical? I mean, is being incredibly busy just an effective camouflage for an extractor?
What's fascinating here is that Lama explicitly addresses this illusion of busyness. The text argues that the difference between a builder and an extractor, it cannot be diagnosed by looking at their schedule or their output volume.
Really? So it's not about how much you're doing?
Not at all. The divergence happens entirely at the level of intention. It is all about the internal question that's driving the behavior.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, the builder walks into a room or a project or a relationship, and they are governed by the question, what can I create? Their baseline objective is to add net value to the environment.
They want to leave it better than they found it.
Exactly. They invest time, they engineer better systems, and they actively increase the capacity of the people around them.
Which operates in direct opposition to the extractor, who walks into that exact same room asking, what can I get?
Yes, precisely. What can I get?
They are scanning the environment to remove value. They are looking for like an informational advantage, an angle to use a colleague's work, or just some mechanism to capture credit for a project they had nothing to do with.
It is the shift from a generative mindset to a parasitic one.
Yeah.
And to illustrate the historical persistence of this dynamic, Lama includes this really powerful fable in the text.
Oh, the canal story.
Yes. There is a man in a village who spends years quietly digging a canal. He is constantly covered in mud, just doing the unglamorous mathematical work of guiding water, preparing the dry earth so that the village's fields can actually support crops.
And he is entirely ignored.
Completely. He is just the invisible guy in the ditch.
Right. But then harvest season arrives. The fields just explode with unprecedented yield, and suddenly all these other villagers swoop in, they harvest the crops, they stand in front of the massive bounty, and they announce to the world, look what we have achieved.
Yeah, the canal digger engineered the architecture of the water flow. The extractor simply showed up for the photo op at the end.
It's infuriating.
It is, but Lama notes this isn't a fairy tale. It is the default operational pattern of human groups. Builders create the field, and extractors monopolize the harvest.
You know, if you, the listener, are looking at your own team right now, you can probably map this directly onto your Monday morning meetings.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the canal digger is that coworker who spent 3 weeks painstakingly debugging the database, normalizing the data, writing the SQL queries that actually make the software function.
The unseen roots.
Exactly. And the extractor is the coworker who swoops in on Friday afternoon, exports that data into a pivot table, slaps the sleek user interface on it, and presents it to the executive board with a charismatic smile.
Yeah, Llama expands on this modern translation by applying the dichotomy to specific professional arenas, and he starts with education, which is fascinating.
Oh, right, the classroom dynamics.
A builder in the classroom is focused on the unseen root system we saw in the visual. They are developing a student's capacity for complex problem solving. They're shaping their resilience and building a true, adaptable understanding of the material.
Which, by the way, is incredibly difficult to measure on a standardized test the following week.
Exactly the point. Because the extractor in education focuses entirely on the surface metric. Their goal is finishing the syllabus at breakneck speed, teaching directly to the test, and producing high statistical marks just to gain administrative recognition.
Wow.
Right. Both are officially titled teachers, but one is expanding the student's cognitive capacity, while the other is just mining the student for a short-term performance metric.
That is such a stark difference. And Llama applies this exact same lens to leadership, too.
Yes, the leadership breakdown is brutal.
A builder leader actively works to distribute authority. They develop the people under them, operating on the assumption that a highly capable team is, just a more robust system.
They build the capacity of the group.
Right. But an extractor leader operates from a place of intense scarcity. They intercept their team's innovative ideas, package them for upper management as their own, and view loyalty as entirely conditional. I mean, they will abandon their team the moment a slightly better title is offered somewhere else.
And this introduces the most frustrating variable in Llama's analysis. It really speaks to why the extractor path is so tempting in the first place.
Because it's easier.
Much easier. Taking from what already exists is always fundamentally faster than creating something from scratch. Chopping down a tree is a matter of hours. Growing a tree is a matter of decades.
Let's linger on the mechanics of that for a second. It is basically an issue of entropy. Building a complex system, whether that's a database, a healthy company culture, or a real education, it requires massive amounts of energy input to fight against entropy.
You have to constantly tend to it.
Right. Tearing down a system or extracting from it is just letting entropy do the work for you. Gravity swings the axe for the woodchopper. They look incredibly efficient because destruction and extraction are the path of least resistance.
That physical metaphor translates perfectly to the economic reality Llama outlines. If we connect this to the bigger picture, in the short term, the dynamic is deeply asymmetrical. Extractors win.
They really do.
They rise fast, they look sharp, and they secure the promotions because they are optimizing for the immediate visible metric. Builders look slow, pedantic, and sometimes even foolish, just stuck in the mud digging their ditches.
So why would anyone choose to be a builder then? I mean, if the modern corporate structure, with its 90-day quarterly earnings reports and rapid turnover, if it's practically designed to reward the woodchopper, choosing to plant a seed feels like professional self-sabotage.
Llama argues that the equalizer is time. The text states, time reveals everything.
Time reveals everything. I like that.
In the short term, the disguise holds up perfectly. But over a long enough horizon, time strips away the camouflage and exposes the intention. The builder eventually creates a self-sustaining ecosystem, a reliable team that functions without constant oversight, or a deeply educated mind that can adapt to new industries.
And the extractor.
The extractor, because they only take and never replenish, eventually exhausts the resources around them. They leave behind absolute emptiness.
But getting to that long-term vindication requires surviving a massive amount of short-term unfairness. And this brings us to the psychological twist in Lama's text, which honestly completely reframes the stakes of this conversation.
It's the core of the whole argument.
The source material argues that the greatest threat to a functional society is not actually the existence of extractors.
No, the real danger is the tragedy of the tired builder.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This is such a profound insight. Lama describes the moment when a builder, someone who genuinely wants to add value and lay a solid foundation, gets so exhausted by the lack of recognition, so demoralized by watching the extractors capture all the rewards, that they just quietly surrender.
They just give up.
Yeah. They look at the person taking the boughs for the chopped wood and think, why am I breaking my back planting seeds? I'm being naive. I need to start playing the game. It is a silent, tragic shift in identity.
It is the exact moment the roots stop growing. And the tragedy isn't just the loss of one builder. It is the contagion of cynicism. When the tired builder gives up, the surrounding culture absorbs that lesson.
It's so relatable. I mean, listener, have you ever felt so exhausted by doing the right thing, by doing the invisible work, that you thought maybe I should just start taking two?
We all have. But Lama provides a defense mechanism against this burnout. The text outlines 3 specific anchors required to remain a builder. And these are framed not as lofty philosophical ideals, but as rigorous daily choices.
Okay, let's go through them. Lama's first defense mechanism against this burnout is what the text calls choosing loyalty over opportunity. Now, I have to push back hard on this one.
Okay, why is that?
In a highly mobile, mercenary economy, turning down a higher-paying job or a fast-track promotion just out of, loyalty to a project, that sounds like a fantastic way to get financially left behind. Why shouldn't someone take a golden opportunity to advance?
It's a fair question, but we have to differentiate between types of opportunity and what you are fundamentally optimizing for. An extractor evaluates an opportunity purely transactionally.
Like, what's the immediate payout?
Right. Does this immediately increase my compensation or status, regardless of the disruption it causes? But a builder evaluates an opportunity structurally. They ask, does this allow me to compound the value I am already creating?
Oh, I see.
Choosing loyalty over opportunity doesn't mean staying in a toxic job. It means recognizing that creating something of profound, lasting value, whether that's relational equity, deep expertise, or a revolutionary product, it requires sustained commitment, a commitment that outlasts the temptation of an easy shortcut.
So it is really about resisting the urge to jump ship the exact moment the actual building process gets difficult or tedious. You are sacrificing the short-term dopamine hit of a new title to secure the long-term compound interest of a finished system.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which leads directly into Lama's second anchor, choosing contribution over extraction.
Right.
This functions as a micro-habit. It's a constant recalibration of the core intention we discussed earlier. Before you speak in a high-stakes meeting or, before you hit send on a critical email, you force yourself to pause and ask the diagnostic question.
Am I trying to add to the collective intelligence of this situation right now, or am I just trying to extract a momentary advantage for myself? That requires an incredible amount of self-awareness. It forces you to catch yourself in the act of trying to look smart at someone else's expense.
It's difficult, but it's essential.
And the third anchor.
The third is choosing the long term over the short term. It is the conscious, sober acceptance that your work is going to look slow today. You are willingly forfeiting the immediate applause because you are optimizing for a future reality. You're ensuring that the canal actually delivers water a decade from now.
When you look at those 3 anchors, loyalty, contribution, and long-term thinking, you realize that Lama is asking the individual to absorb a lot of friction.
A tremendous amount.
But the text makes it clear that this isn't just about individual career advice. When we scale this up, the implications are actually terrifying. So what does this all mean? What happens when an entire corporate culture or an entire country adopts the extractor mindset as its default operating system?
The macro consequences follow the exact same physics as the micro consequences, just on a devastating scale. A society full of extractors inherently consumes itself.
Because there's nothing new being made.
Right. If everyone is hyper-focused on taking from the existing pile of resources rather than adding to it, the pile rapidly shrinks.
You end up with a board of directors basically fighting over how to slice a pie that is actively rotting instead of anyone trying to bake a new one.
That's a great way to put it. And the most fatal casualty in that scenario is trust. If everyone is looking to take credit and shift blame, true collaboration becomes mathematically impossible. Conversely, a society of builders grows and strengthens because its members are actively expanding the carrying capacity of their environment.
And Lama doesn't just leave this as a philosophical thought experiment. The academic backbone supporting this chapter is incredibly robust. Looking at Lama's reference list, you realize that this simple dichotomy of builders versus extractors is actually a masterclass in synthesizing massive established frameworks. We're talking psychology, systems theory, and macroeconomics.
The synthesis is seamless. This raises an important question about how these disciplines intersect. Let's look at Carol Dweck's seminal work, Mindset.
Oh, sure. Growth versus fixed mindset.
Exactly. When Lama talks about the internal psychology of the builder, the fundamental belief that you can develop people, improve systems, and generate new value, that is a direct applied version of Dweck's growth mindset.
By contrast, the extractor is operating purely from a fixed mindset. They believe that value, intelligence, and resources are finite. So if the world is a zero-sum game, taking a slice before someone else does is literally the only logical survival strategy.
Right. The fixed mindset creates the artificial urgency that drives the woodchopper.
Wow.
Then Lama layers in Danella Meadows and thinking in systems. We discussed how extractors disrupt systems while builders create them. In Meadows terms, builders understand feedback loops and stocks and flow.
Right, the mechanics of the system itself.
Yes, they know that if they drain the stock, whether that is natural resources or, frankly, employee morale, without replenishing the flow, the system inevitably collapses. Extractors are dangerously blind to the system. They only perceive the isolated harvest.
They genuinely don't realize that by taking all the crops and refusing to maintain the canal, there will be absolutely no harvest next year. They just think the system will magically reset itself.
It's pure short-term delusion.
Which leads us to the most macro connection on Lama's reference lists. Duran Estimoglu and James Robinson's Why Nations Fail.
This is the ultimate societal endgame of everything we have discussed today. Acemoglu and Robinson argue that the dividing line between prosperous and failing nations comes down to their institutions.
Right.
Nations succeed when they build inclusive institutions, legal and economic systems that allow broad participation, encourage investment, and fiercely protect the builders, ensuring they actually get to keep the fruits of their labor.
And nations fail when they are dominated by extractive institutions. These are systems designed by a small elite purely to siphon wealth and resources away from the broader society.
Exactly.
When a nation operates this way, it actively disincentivizes innovation. I mean, why would the canal digger ever pick up a shovel if he knows the local warlord or corrupt politician is just going to steal the harvest anyway?
He wouldn't.
The tired builder giving up is the exact mechanism by which a nation collapses.
Lama has taken macroeconomic theory, systems thinking, and developmental psychology and distilled all of that incredible complexity into a single, highly actionable choice. Are you holding a watering can or are you holding an axe?
It's brilliant. It scales flawlessly from the way you format a spreadsheet on a Tuesday morning all the way up to the historical fate of a nation. Let's recap the terrain we've covered today.
Let's do it.
We started by decoding the visual metaphor, recognizing that true foundational work happens beneath the surface, while extraction is highly visible and, well, highly destructive.
We identified the core diagnostic questions. What can I create versus what can I get?
Right. And we analyzed the immense pressure of time and entropy, acknowledging why the woodchopper looks so fast and efficient in the short term. We explored the very real tragedy of the tired builder and the three daily anchors: loyalty, contribution, and long-term thinking required to fight off that contagious cynicism.
And finally, we scale the entire concept up to see how extractive institutions cause entire societies to fail.
Such a massive journey.
It is, but throughout this entire exploration, ND Lama's ultimate challenge remains pointed directly at you, the listener. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how busy your calendar is. It doesn't matter how successful you look to the people scrolling past your profile. The only question that truly matters, the only one that the variable of time will eventually reveal the answer to is, are you building or are you extracting?
It is a heavy question, and it really requires brutal honesty to answer. And it leaves me with one final thought, something for you to mull over as you navigate your own professional ecosystem this week. We explored how an extractor society inherently consumes itself, leaving nothing but stumps. But what exactly happens at that tipping point? I mean, what happens the day an extractor wakes up, grabs their axe, and realizes they've completely run out of builders to extract from?
That's a terrifying thought.
Do they turn those axes on each other? Or, in that moment of absolute emptiness, are they forced to finally drop the axe, get down in the dirt, and learn how to plant a seed? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep growing those deep roots.